I want to give a special thanks to our musicians, Jeffrey, Natalie, and introducing Ben. Thank you for being up here, Ben. That was wonderful. We enjoyed that. And pushing Kimberly. I said Natalie. Kimberly, you know I know who you are. I'm sorry, love. I don't know why I did that. I was looking at Natalie, but thinking of Kimberly. Thank you guys so much. That was wonderful. In this moment and at this time, I invite you to join me in loving yourself exactly the way you are. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice, deep, cleansing breath in, breathing in love, light, oxygen, renewal. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Let go of any thoughts of the past or any future events. Let go of any anxiety or worries you may be having at this moment. Because in this moment, at this time, you are perfect exactly who you are, how you are, in and with the great I am. Take another nice, deep, cleansing breath. And as you release the breath, allow your body to relax and allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to this miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one very special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or even on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
Good morning. I think I'm settled up here. I need a desk, right? I need drawers, stuff. Got a lot of stuff for you today. So last week I started a series relating to poetry, how poetry informs us and how poetry is a spiritual practice, and encouraging everybody to write poetry. And I had 3 different people respond to that idea this week individually with the same response, which was, I'm terrified to write poetry because I'm going to be judged for it. Because in my past, when I have been. You handed it in school, and they handed it back and said, either this is no good, or this is so good you must have copied it from somebody else. And so it becomes an exercise less in having to do with any kind of writing practice. It's a lesson in judgment and in self-judgment. And what the great poets do and the great artists do is they resist judging themselves. And so that's what I want to encourage everybody to do, is let it pour out of you and try not to judge it as it hits the page. Try not to judge it as it hits the canvas. Try not to judge it as it pours itself out on the piano keys. Just let it be what it is. And editing is not the same as judging. The difference is judgment has emotion wrapped around it. Editing is a more aloof practice. Self-editing. Replacing a word here and there with a more evocative word. That's a fine thing to do. It improves your craft. It widens your vocabulary. It sharpens your mind. Judgment never did anybody any good. All it does is make you sad. All it does is put you in opposition to the world. And I don't think there's a public poet who's ever lived who hasn't been judged. When you publish your work, when you present it to the world thinks, fresh meat. That's what That's what the world will do. And this goes back pre-internet and pre-social media and pre all the platforms that we can think of where judgment abounds. And look at all of the poets and writers and artists of the ages who were deterred from doing what they did by public outcry and said, you're no good. Look at the writers that you've heard of, the famous people whose work you love, and their offices are papered with rejection slips. Look at all of the actors that went out for role after role after role and couldn't get anywhere until one day they did, and then they were, launched as a career. So I'm not suggesting necessarily that everybody here wants to go on to be a professional poet. What I'm telling you is that poetry is the music of the soul. You think in poetry. You speak in poetry. You tighten it up to make it prose, but it's really a poetic thing. And it's the practice at home that makes the science of mind work. I was thinking of I said, I think last week, and I've said before, that what we're all looking for in teaching this work is the perfect metaphor. The metaphor that just lands right with everybody. And, well, you keep looking. I mean, it's a lifetime journey. But a metaphor that came to me for how all of this works is it's like driver's education. Do you remember driver's education? Now, mine was like a really long time ago, but I don't think it's changed all that much. And they had classroom and behind the wheel. You with me? So classroom was, here's a curb, here's how far from it you should park, here's a fire hydrant, here you do this and this. Here's what's likely to happen out there. But if they had kept it at classroom and never put you in the car, it wouldn't have delivered, would it? No, you had to get, but if they put you in the car without the classroom, it would have been more of a hair-raising experience for the coach that was guiding you to do this, right? Than it turned out being. No, you needed both. You needed some instruction, and then they put you, and they had to trust you. Now, the driver's ed car that I was in, the coach, because it's always a coach, the coach sat in the passenger seat, and they had a brake pedal. Do you remember that? Yeah. I had a brake pedal, and they had a brake pedal, just in case. But eventually, somebody had to get in the car with me who didn't. Somebody had to get in the car with me as a passenger who trusted the fact that I was going to know when to stop. And the only way that I could develop that capacity was through practice. Well, that's how spiritual practice works. What you're doing in here on Sunday morning, and I am too to a large extent, is classroom. This is classroom. This is how I could have a chart up here with how consciousness works. And as I say that and I turn, I remember, I flash on where that earth is. We had the time warp chart at one point where I stood on a chair. Anyway, that's a long time ago. But it's just a jump to the left. But we say, well, this is how consciousness works. Here we go. This is how consciousness works. This is the descent of spirit into form. That's what the circle and V means. The two lines are subjective mind, subconscious mind, right? The V represents choice. No, it's not the vitamin shop. It represents choice. And the point of the V is where choice materializes in some kind of form and then dissolves back. And the circle represents infinity, eternality, and inclusive environment in which this occurs. And you are an environment in which this occurs, and I am an environment in which this occurs. Okay, great. That's the classroom. Now, outside these walls, we're all dealing with the subconscious mind. We're all dealing with our interior process. We're learning as we go, and we're developing our own style. And this is the thing, too. I mean, to beat the metaphor further, it's like as a driver, you have a style. Some drivers, no matter how long they've driven, are kind of cautious, and they keep to the speed limit. I had an aunt one time who, when I was learning to drive, she said, you realize the speed limit is as fast as you can go. That's why they call it the limit. You don't have to go the limit. Riding with this woman as a passenger was a terrifying experience. particularly on freeways and things, because it's the limit. It's as fast, and it's like, well, most people go 10, 15 miles over the limit. It's not a big deal. More than that, maybe you're pushing it. No, she would have none of that. So she had a particular style. Other people have different. So you develop a style in the world of how you're using your tools, how you're using your gifts, how you're using what's furnished inside. So when I suggest about poetry, to look at the world and look at it, there's a paradox here. There are a lot of paradoxes in this teaching, and a big paradox is, we talk about meaning, finding the meaning in life. But before you jump to the meaning, look at the details. Look at the fine points. Before you make them assemble themselves into some kind of a story. For instance, you go see a movie, and you tell somebody, I saw this great movie, really like it. And somebody, what's it about? Your people want to know, what's it about? And it's like, I can tell you what it's about, and you will not have the experience I had of seeing the movie, because it's about way more than what it's about. It's about how it delivers itself. It's about character portrayals. It's about dialogue. It's about all kinds of inventiveness that goes into it. It's not just this happens and then that happens and this person says this to that. See, life is texture. Life is flavor. Life is color. That's the thing. And you miss that sometimes when you're trying to assemble the whole thing into, what do I get out of this? What does this mean to me? What is this telling me I should do? How should I live my life? Just look at it as what it is. And to put it another way, it's not all about us. It's not all about us. Somebody I know had an encounter with wasps the other day. Okay? The wasps were not, they're not like harboring this intention to harm us. They're busy doing what they do. Occasionally you may cross paths with them in a way that they find intrusive, and they have a way of letting you know that. Okay? Nature does. But nature's not like waiting for us to come along so that it can have this interplay with us. The trees in the field and so on, they have their own life, right? And if you notice that and you make it less about you and more about just what's so, you'll allow things to tell you their story on their terms, and they will. That is something they've been waiting to do, is to show themselves forth to you. This is what life means, is everything has a story, everything has a tale, everything is on a journey of life, and it's all seeking to share that with you. So you begin to look at that, and now you get this inventory of information that you've taken in, that now you can begin to assemble in some kind of creative way, where it might not mean anything to anybody else, but it means a great deal to you. And that's poetry. And that's what every poet has set out to. I promise you that there's not a poet on the face of the earth that's made a lot of money at it, and there are not a lot of them, but who has said, I'm going to write a poem that everybody loves and means something to everyone. It just doesn't work that way. They're writing it because it's pouring out of their soul. So we have our own style, we have our own process, we have our own words, we put these things together and we express them. And I wanted to share with you several items today, one of which is really meaningful to me. There was a woman here at Creative Life years ago. It's now years ago. Where do the years go? I ask you, where do the full years go? 2008 it's been since she passed. And she was big in this place. Her name was Deb Miller. She was a practitioner here, and some of you were fortunate enough to know her. And if you know her, you know, and I'll tell this for the rest of you, this woman lived large. She filled up a room. You knew when she entered the building. You could just feel kind of the ionization in the air change. She had this big, loud personality. She dressed flamboyantly, not just at parties and stuff. I mean all the time. Okay? And she had this zest for life, this love for life, and she took a bunch of classes here and became a practitioner. And she was a terrific practitioner. Every practitioner has their own style, and they have kind of their own vibe. And you go to some if you want the quiet support and, you know, the confidence and stuff. And you go to others if you want just an injection of sunlight. And that's, you know, what she did. She wrote a little poem, and she handed it to me in a class, and I found it the other day in her hand. Isn't it sweet? She wrote it in what looks like a blue Sharpie. She says, "To Jesse, thanks for many fine connections." And it's called Creativity, and it's real short. I don't know if it's haiku. It's about the length haiku would be. I haven't counted the syllables. Creativity dresses up in purple flowers, tweaks the cheeks of dull convention, giggles merrily as parody struts down Bourbon Street. Isn't that awesome? Now, at the time when she handed that to me, and ever since when I've thought of it, and when she passed, that was in her memorial program. And then recently rediscovering it in papers of, I'm scanning old practitioner files, is how I happened to find this in her hand, you know. Every time I picture her, and I was just telling Shirley this for the service, picture her strutting down Bourbon Street, twirling a parasol, okay? That was just so her. Why did she write that? I think it was a longing that she had for a freedom in her life that at the time she had a lot of responsibilities and a lot going on, and she wasn't on Bourbon Street, and she wasn't able to just be large and loud all the time in the big creative expressive ways she wanted to be. And so that was kind of a plea. It was kind of a longing. That's a powerful statement in poetry. That's a powerful statement in life. Here's how I would prefer things to be. And God, we beg people to do this when they're creating affirmations in our classwork. So often people will say, well, I affirm and know that my life, and they even bob their heads like this when they say, you know, I affirm and know that my life is peaceful and happy and I'm prosperous and that everything is exciting and fun and they write all this. Okay, exciting is not an exciting word. Fun leaves you cold. Fun. What is that even? Okay? No. Strut down Bourbon Street. Right? Get out your musical instruments. Bang on your drum. Bang a gong. Get it on. What was that? T-Rex, right? Yeah. You know, use these evocative expressions to describe what you want as a reality and then step into that reality. And that's how you create. Create a big scene. I was speaking a few weeks ago about a backdrop, that we have a backdrop behind us in consciousness that we act our lives out in front of, a theatrical sort of drop, right? And if it's a gloomy backdrop, it's very difficult to come out here and do comedy, to come out here and do something that's lighthearted if it's all thunder and lightning back there, you know? So look at that. What is the context out of which you want to create your life? And it works. Because this thing in here, the subconscious mind between the two lines, works on feeling. It takes word pictures as descriptive of feeling. Word pictures steer feeling. But the subconscious mind operates on feeling, which we might also call emotion. And I use the two terms interchangeably, and there's some argument about that, but bear with, okay? To get excited about what we want to create in our lives as though we were creating it right now. That's what moves the subconscious mind. If we go to it with the shopping list and kind of drone through it, it's unmoved. Remember that everything that creates for us is a belief, and a belief is a packet of energy that is composed of thought wrapped in feeling. Belief is thought plus feeling. And it's really more feeling than it is thought. The thought steers, yes, but the feeling has got to got to supply itself for anything to move, for anything to change. So what are we willing to feel about the new reality that we wish to inhabit? If you feel unheard in life, how would it be if you were heard? How would it be if you were all that? How would it be if people loved you and let you know and ran to your side? How would it be if you were supported, if you were encouraged? How would it be if life really worked for you? How would it be if you felt peaceful and happy? How would it be if the anxiety that you feel as a backdrop, like the old static on the TV screen, you know, this kind of thing, this backdrop of anxiety, how would it be if that stilled itself away, just faded into silence, and there was this deep silence at the center of your soul that was like the space between the stars? How would that be? Would that be all right with you? Would that be all right with you? And if it seems like no, that's increasingly worrisome, that's making me more anxious just to hear that, then you'll want to turn it in some different direction, and you know what that direction is, and nobody knows better than you what that direction is. And other people will come to you from time to time and say, you know what you need? And this is what the culture does a lot. As a matter of fact, at this hour on Sunday mornings all over the planet, in that time, whatever time zone, people are being told that by people like me from places like this, right? You know what you need? You need more of this. You need more scripture. You need more Jesus. You need more something else. You ask Jesus what you need. You know what he'd say? Go be you. Go find yourself. Listen to what I listen to. Listen to something at the center of your soul. You go to scripture, you read scripture correctly, you see it says more or less the same thing, with old stories and lots of other things shoveled in there, but you know that basically it's putting that same idea across. You are my beloved child, in whom I am well pleased, says Spirit. You are my beloved child, in whom I am well represented. That's what we need to know. You know what you need. And a practitioner, while we're speaking of them, like a Deb Miller or the other excellent practitioners that we currently have serving here, what they help you do is they help steer you to your own inner wisdom. They don't take the wheel for you. They don't move you where they think you ought to go. They say, here's how you can find yourself, and then they repeat back to you very often. They'll relanguage for you what you've told them. You say, I'd like you to treat about something for me. What would that be? You tell them, so they treat. I always say, well, now, I write out a lot of treatments for people. I say, well, here's a treatment for you. Do you like it? Does it say what you want it to say? If it doesn't, you have two options. One is get me to rewrite it. The other is you rewrite it. Write it up how you want it to, okay, until it sounds just about right. And then treat about it, and then as things are achieved in the treatment, they can drop out of the treatment. You can move other things in until your life is about perpetual treatment and demonstration, and that's not a bad way to live. So we're not using the thing as a fire extinguisher. You know, we're using it as, right? We're using it as a perpetual practice of spiritual reconnection. So, again, the purpose of this whole thing about poetry, and more poetry coming, and I'll stop talking so much about poetry because I realize that's kind of a one-track thing. If it may not be your thing, but if it's not your thing, I encourage you to look and see why it isn't your thing, and it may be because you had some kind of toxic experience with it. You were bitten by it like the wasp, you know, and it's like, ugh. So, and other people have had the same experience with music, art, you name it. But it's really about the evocation of feeling. It's really about getting your story out there in some way. In a way that is actually very practical, even though it might not at first glance seem to be. Which brings me to my second poem by Grace Paley, called The Poet's Occasional Alternative. The Poet's Occasional Alternative. She says, I was going to write a poem. I made a pie instead. It took about the same amount of time. Of course, the pie was a final draft. A poem would have had some distance to go, days and weeks and much crumpled paper. The pie already had a talking, tumbling audience among small trucks and a fire engine on the kitchen floor. Everybody will like this pie. It will have apples and cranberries, dried apricots in it. Many friends will say, "Why in the world did you make only one?" This does not happen with poems. Because of unreportable sadnesses, I decided to settle this morning for a responsive eatership. I do not want to wait a week, a year, a generation for the right consumer to come along. Isn't that great? Makes me hungry is what it makes me. Well, I don't know the backstory of that. And it's pretty evident. She's a mom. She made a pie. It's a tangible thing. Everybody likes it. Who doesn't like a pie? I was at a wedding one time where they had a pie table. I prefer pie to cakes. This was a wonderful wedding. But the pie is a poem, isn't it? It's a tangible thing. And everybody knows what to do with it, how to ingest it. The poem takes a little more circling around. You stand back from it and you say, I'm not sure I really want to commit to this. We circle around our own thoughts. Never mind anybody else's for a moment. We circle around our own thoughts. Say, I'm not really sure I want to commit to this. I'll tell you what the biggest challenge is in the practice of the science of mind, I believe, is the fear that it won't work. The fear that it won't work. What if I treat? What if I follow what Ernest Holmes and all these other people suggest, and I really commit my feeling to a new set of outcomes and nothing happens? In fact, what if things get worse? What if I lose what I have? Not only don't get what I need, but lose what I have. What then? And yet every day we wake up with a thinking mind and a feeling heart. Every day we're generating new beliefs. Why not? Why not? Mitch Horowitz, for one, says this in several of his books. And he's a critical thinker when it comes to new thought principles. He's a little skeptical there, which it's not a bad thing. He looks at this and he says, try it. Try it. He wrote a review of the little booklet called It Works. You might have seen it. We have it in the bookstore, a little tiny thing. It's been around for years and years. And it compresses all of this teaching down into maybe 1,000 words at that. It's just try it. Give it a period of time. Try it for, a week. Try it for a week. Try what? Try what exactly? Try looking for the good and praising it. Try expecting the best and preparing for it. Try letting go of the past and letting it be done. Try forgiving. Try being grateful. Try being grateful. Try this. Try this as a regular spiritual practice. Try this. Do just this thing. Do just this thing. And I've told you before about there are books and things that have lists of stuff, practices that you can undertake, and I have resisted them, and other people I've talked to resist. Gee, it's a great book, but here it says now do this every day, and I just don't have the time. But I do have the time to think negatively. I do have the time to judge, make myself wrong. I can find the time for that. Sure, you bet. Also, pointless tasks, I can find the time. May not have the time to meditate, but if there's some corner of my house that's all, I got dust in it or something, I won't do that either, but I'll obsess on it. I'll think about it, right? The garage needs cleaning out, and I'll lay there staring at the ceiling about that while the rest of my life kind of swirls around me. We have misplaced priorities. There's a fix for that. It's called replace them. Place them differently. to commit to the idea. So what I want to suggest to you in the week to come and in the days to come, I'll have more material for you next week on this. And I know I'm going to get to song lyrics. Hadn't got to song lyrics yet. There's an awful lot going on with the song lyrics. I got one for you today. It's real short. And there was a band that I grew up with. I mean, literally grew up with. They started out when I was 10, and I first heard them when I was 14, and they have been in my head, and they've been the soundtrack to my entire life. They're called Grateful Dead, and many of you know this about me, but it's not a shameful secret. It's just a thing, you know. But several of them the bulk of them are off the planet now, but three remain, and two are still performing under that more or less name with John Mayer, and they just did a 60th anniversary weekend of concerts on the Polo Grounds in Golden Gate Park, which is where they started out in '65. And as they were going through their canon of stuff, as particularly in their later years when Jerry Garcia, their leader, was still with us, they would end most of their concerts, or at least before they got to the encore set, would not fade away, the Buddy Holly thing, which is what I was telling you, the Buddy Holly beat, you know, is like universally recognized. And there's a line in there, and they'd stop playing, and they'd turn it over to the audience to sing. It says, "You know our love will not fade away. You know our love will not fade away. You know our love will not fade away." So that's a lyric I'd like you to carry in your mind and heart in the week to come and beyond. You know our love will not fade away. The love we have for you in this place, the love that life has for you, the love that the trees and even the wasps, even the things that sting and bite and crawl and all of that, you know. Life loves you as you are, celebrates you as you are. And we'll get into more poetry as we go forward. But in the week to come, try writing down some verse. Shaming voices come into your head, thank them for sharing. Just thank you for sharing. Now be still. And they will. And they'll be envious. They'll be envious. And that's a trap too, because we go into that and now we're kind of superior because I'm writing poetry and I'm special. No, just let all of that. That's a judgment too. Let all of that just still itself down, you know. And just how would I describe this sort of tumbling of, like Emerson said, we walk by falling forward. The planets move. All things move by falling forward. Imagine that, this sort of tumbling into life. And see what comes out of you for that. You never have to share it with another living soul. But if you choose to, you choose to. And we'll make a way for that to happen. So let's know together now there is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere, radiant, lovely, manifesting. On this brilliant summer day, and school is starting up again. And friendships are being rekindled. People are seeing people they haven't maybe over the whole summer. And there's new information coming our way that builds on the old information. And the next math class you have or language class you have, it presumes a certain knowledge. So it is that everything that's unfolding for us spiritually in life is building on the foundation that we ourselves have laid. In the simple affirmation of there being one life and that life being spirit, spirit being all there is, infinite and eternal, the source of all things that grow and thrive. From that basis comes a more precise understanding of the specifics of life and a delight that we take in each of them. For this knowing, the way that it rolls out in form, in and through our experience, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
Oh, that feels weird, standing here with like nothing in front of me. I do. I'm doing this
There you go.
because I need something in front of me. I can't do that. It was funny. So I had a different poem that I was going to read for you guys today. But Jesse's talk made me want to do this other poem that I wrote. And I was frantically looking for it, in between listening, in between trying to keep up with chat. So, and literally while Mel was singing, I found it. And I'm so glad. So, this is the poem that I was not intending to read, and I haven't read in a while, but I want to share with you. And the title of this poem is Awaken to Your Own Magnificence. Oh, you beautiful little dandelion, you, with those white fluffy seeds prancing with the wind on the tips of each blade of grass. Blossom, my child. You who are each blade of grass sprouting up from the fertile soil, expanding out as far as the eye can conceive, to blanket the all with the all. You are the all. You are the oak, tall, firm, roots anchored into the depths of the earth, branches stretched high above the ether, soaking in and expelling out nourishment for the soul. Flow like the water that you are. Wash possibility onto the shores of universal consciousness and erode the misperceptions of limitations. Lean into being God's paintbrush and allow yourself to be transformed into the Creator's ultimate masterpiece. Swallow the sun and radiate your abundant essence throughout the biosphere. Launch your rockets of imagination into creation. Allow the ultimate power of Source in you to be your co-pilot, your wingman, that freaky friend that takes you on the most amazing adventures. Be the dance party. Race toward the edge of the cliff, expand your wings across the vast horizon, and leap into stardom. Glide through the fermentation, separating the waters above from the waters below, and enjoy the blissful journey between. Pray in with intention for the good that you want, need, and deserve in your life. Pray out with extension to tap into the power of all that is, was, and forever will be. Remember, believe, manifest your plethora, or just sit, be still, and know you are God. Thank you.
It's hard to know where to start, really. That was, I've heard it before, Dainill, but that was really, really good. You actually managed to go from Genesis to nature to science of mind. It's kind of cool. I was trying to think of some puns. The only one I could think of is that belief is what the tree said. There were some more, but they're not repeatable. But back on a serious note, you know that we have 2 book studies going. If you want to continue what Reverend Jesse was talking about today, which is putting into practice what you hear, you can discuss it in the book studies. And when you take our classes, and we have a bunch coming up for you in the fall and then starting next year, as part of those classes, it isn't just classroom work and listening. It's actually getting involved in exercises, doing things, meeting with partners afterwards. So you're actually practicing the science of mind, whichever class you choose to go through with us. So it's a really great start. And we're also going to start a foundation class for those of you who are not totally familiar with science of mind. So that's another one. And we're also going to come up with practitioner training. So we have a really lot going on that we're working on behind the scenes. Let me say, at the end of the month, two things. One is the sound circle, which will be on the last Saturday of the month. And then, as I mentioned last week, the last Sunday of the month is Reverend Arthur Johnson. And I was serious when I said, you will not go to sleep when he's speaking. You absolutely won't. Yeah, that's true. You know, I mean, he does the old Baptist thing, and you got to respond. You know, it's... Well, actually, I know somebody who used to go to sleep. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us, right? And I mean, how's this for not caring what anybody thinks? He used to sit on the second row, and Jesse would be speaking, and he would go to sleep, and I would see him. His head would go down, you know, right? Yeah, he would start moving over, and he's on the second row. So he did absorb it. This is true. He claimed that he was right in the middle there in the subconscious mind. You know, it was he was working on it. So anyway, everything else is in the program. Please, if you don't not signed up for our email, please do that, because everything's in there. There are live links in there. There are links to people running the classes. You can just email them. You can get the information from them. So, and as we come up to giving time, one quick reminder: if you are of a certain age and you have a 401k or an IRA, you can actually make charitable donations through that, and it doesn't impact your tax-wise, so it's tax-free. To you, they're tax-free donations. So consider that, and I know several people here do that, and they make use of it. So why pay tax when you don't have to, and you can benefit your organization at the same time? So it's a really good way to give. So as we come up to giving time now, our usher is in place. Please say with me: divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
I have two little wisdoms to share with you, because words do mean things. And I know about writing poetry because I do it occasionally. And one of the things about poetry is it makes you feel different. And feeling different is scary. So I'm going to remind you of this. This is dedicated to every human being who looks different, feels different, and thinks differently. I see you. I feel you. I am you. Stay different. Our world needs the difference we will make. Okay? It's about the feeling. And then the last one is just for me. I have so much more crazy to become. Right? Makes you feel things. Makes you feel things. And that's what I'm about. I have so much more crazy to become. I also saw another one that said, I will separate glitter before I let your opinion of me stress me out. Okay? And I thought of you. Yeah, you do. All right, so step with me consciously into the sacred. It is all sacred all the time. It is always a holy moment. But in these times when we intentionally step there, we go to that place in that circle, which is everywhere and nowhere. And we soak in that energy where nothing has ever been wrong. And we bring it back into the material and watch it ripple out. There is one life. There is one power. There is one mind. There is one life. There is one presence. There is one love. And each and every one of us live that life. We manifest that presence. We are that love. as we walk through this week, may we know who we are. May we be the loving arms that catch each other, that hold each other tight in those moments when we don't think we can do it again. May we be the hand that reaches out and grasps that other hand and says, I see you, beloved child of the Spirit. I know you. I see your heart. And that heart is so big that it holds the whole world in it. And loves it as only Spirit can. May we know that love. May we give that love. May we be that love. And I know it is so. And I am grateful. I am grateful for a teaching that reminds me that I am that love. I am grateful for a community that comes together to share that love. I am grateful for our musicians, our ministers, our practitioners, each and every one of you, and the technology that allows us to send this out into the ethers. And I release my word into that law with that love, knowing that it is so. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. So it is.